All right, so welcome to the Denali Payroll webinar series for April 23rd, 2014. Okay, so we're going to be running this webinar today. It'll be about 15 to 20 minutes of a presentation time and then 10 to 15 minutes for Q&A after the webinar. If you have any questions, go ahead and put your questions in the chat and we'll get those answered in the Q&A section as much as we can. If we're not able to get to all of your questions by the end of our time, then we'll get the answers posted on the website. So keep an eye out for that as well. All right, my name is Jeremy Beislein. I'll be your presenter today. I'm a trainer here at Cougar Mountain, and so I'll be the one presenting the webinar here today. And today's agenda, we're going to be talking mostly about the reports that you can run in the Denali Payroll webinar, or in the Denali Payroll module. I want to do a little more description on the edit reports. So we kind of went over that quickly last week, but I'll give a little better description on what the Denali edit report looks like in the payroll module. Also, we had a request last week for someone to for me to show the paycheck stub, so I decided to add that to this week's webinar. We're also going to cover how to void a paycheck in Denali Payroll if you ever need to void a check after it's been posted. And then we'll go over the other reports that are available in the Denali Payroll module. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started here. Again, if anyone is not able to hear me, let me know in the chat. Or if you can't see the screen, let me know in the chat if you have any problems with your screen as well. Quick agenda like we talked about here. We're going to talk about the reports here in Denali Payroll, going over the edit report, the pay stub. We're going to talk about voiding a paycheck, and then we're going to talk about the historical payroll reports as well. Okay, so let's jump back into it here. So what I did is I have the current payroll batch running here. So we're going to pull the edit report from the current payroll batch. I'm going to give you a little more of a detailed description on how the edit report works. You should be able to see this now. I do have this set up here. Okay, so here's our transaction edit report for the current batch. As you can see, this is a list of all of the checks. We start with check number 1, transaction number 1. This is a direct deposit check, so the check number is automatically assigned. We've got our different pay rates here. Under rate code department, the amount for this rate, regular, and then your other time 1 and 2, those are your overtime rates. In the first column, you have employee tax deductions. The second column here, you have the employer tax portions as well. The third column is the benefit deductions for this check. And the fourth column is the total for each pay category. As you can see, we got regular, overtimes 1 and 2, or other time as they're called in Denali Payroll, other pay, compensation, holiday, other PTO, sick, vacation, etc. Then at the bottom of this section, we have the total gross earnings for this employee, the total employee deductions for this check, and the net pay on this check. We go down to the next check, the next employee. And this report runs all the way through. I'm going to skip ahead to page 8 here. Okay, so on page 8, we're finishing up the last employee here. Transaction number 17, this is our last employee, their total information. And then you get down here to the report totals. This is what's neat about this Denali edit report, the Denali Payroll edit report. You have your report totals. You've got your regular pay amounts and regular pay hours. Then you've got totals for other times 1 and 2, which is overtime, and then totals for leave time as well. And then moving on down, the next section on this report is your tax summary for just this current payroll batch that we're in. So you've got the tax summary that you have here. These are all of the different tax codes that apply to this payroll batch. And these are all the totals on the different tax codes that you have just in this current payroll batch. It's all included in the edit report. Below the tax summary, you have the check summary. This right here shows the total gross pay over here, $24,081.26. Then you've got a category for all of the total deductions, the total benefits, the total tips, total additions to gross, or the additions codes, I'm sorry. Add to gross is up here right before the total gross. The additions is your codes, your benefit deduction codes, the total garnishments. And then you have a breakdown here under total gross, direct deposits, total checks, and then the total net pay, which is a combined total of the direct deposits and the total checks. That's your total net pay there. So that gives you a total summary of the entire payroll batch right there. And then, of course, the report summary is just your report parameters. So I wanted to show you guys that because the edit report is, it gives you the detail of each different types of information you're going to need for this payroll batch. All right, so after you run your edit report, of course, we print checks, and we went over this last week a little bit, but I wanted to show you guys what the check stub actually looks like. So if we select one of our employees here, I'm just going to grab this first employee here, and we're going to show you this check stub. I hope you can see it on your screen. It's kind of small. It said no information to report because I'm saying print checks, but this employee is a direct deposit employee. So we'll do the direct deposit instead. We'll try that. Now here's what the Denali paycheck stub looks like. This is, well, it still says nothing to report. Okay. Oh, I already printed that check. That's why. Let's go to all. All right. So this is what our Denali paycheck stub looks like. Looks like it's going to work this time. The Denali paycheck stub, it'll be kind of small on your screen, so I hope you can see that. There's a lot of information it puts on the check stub, so it's kind of in small print. But as you can see, the way this works is it's got your employee number, name, and here we have your Social Security number. Now, for those who are coming in from Cougar Mountain Professional, it used to not print the Social Security number on the check stub. Now, as you recall, in module preferences we had a couple weeks ago in the webinar, we talked about how it now prints the Social Security number, but we've encrypted the first 5 digits, so it's only printing the last 4. In your module preferences, you can encrypt the last 6 digits and only print the first 3, or you can tell it not to print the Social Security number. Or if you want, you can uncheck the encrypt Social Security number and it'll print the whole number on the check stub. Those are some options that you can do there. This is the pay period end and the check date, as we have here. Now, this is what's neat about the check stub. You've got the different codes here, because this employee had 3 different pay codes, remember. This is an example of a multi-state payroll. So we had 3 different departments that this employee worked with and 3 different pay rate codes. So we've got the hours for the admin code and the rate and the total, the hours for production code, rate, total, the hours for R3, the rate, and the total amount here. Over here you would have the overtime 1 for the 3 different codes, overtime 2, or any leave time that you would have entered in for this employee on this paycheck, if they were getting paid any vacation pay or PTO on this check. And it would be categorized by the 3 different codes here. Then you've got your 3 columns here. The first column is the first box here is the tax deductions for this employee. You got the current Medicare, the current Social Security, current withholding, and then the year-to-date here. Then you got your 3 state or local tax codes on this employee as well, and the current amount, the year-to-date. The middle section here is your benefit deductions here, and you've got your benefit, current amount, and year-to-date. This employee, it looks like this is his first paycheck. His year-to-date is the same as current. So this is this employee's first paycheck here. And then over here, you've got your total hours for all 3 codes combined. We have 80, total amount, and total year-to-date amount, and all the other different pay categories here as well. At the bottom, we have the summary, current earnings of all pay codes, current deductions for everything, taxes and deductions combined, and the net pay here. Then we've got year-to-date current earnings, year-to-date deductions, year-to-date net pay. Now over here on the far right, the total leave hours is the total accumulated hours that this employee has available that he can use for leave time, PTO, vacation, and so forth. And that is this is the Cougar Mountain Denali Paycheck Stub. This is the standard format that comes with Denali Payroll. Now if you have Crystal reports, of course you can customize this check stub for however you need it to look or print on your printer. This is an example of a paycheck where it prints the stub at the top, it prints the check in the middle, and then it prints another stub at the bottom. Now again, you can customize these formats if you have Crystal reports. If you need the check to print at the top and 2 stubs at the bottom, that would be an example to customize that. Now this says non-negotiable because this is a direct deposit stub. So therefore, it's not a check. If it was printing on an actual check form, the words non-negotiable print out because the check has already been paid via direct deposit. So that's an example of a paycheck printout. Okay, and then we went over the rest of the payroll process, the check register, the pre-posting reports. We covered that last week, the direct deposits. So the final step is, of course, to post your payroll transactions, which I'm going to go ahead and post this current batch here. And it says here, checks have not been printed. Are you sure you want to post? And we're going to get some posting errors because we don't have check numbers. We ran into this last week, but I wanted to show you this because if you don't print your checks, then Denali Payroll does not assign the check numbers as it needs to do, so therefore it will not post because you have to have a check number for each check. And as you can see, these are the transactions that didn't have a check number. So you'll get the error report unless we actually go through the process to print the checks, which we'll do that real quick. Select the current batch. And we're going to start with check number 1016. That's the default check number since the last one it printed was 1015. However, you can always change this right here if needed. If you put your stack of checks in the printer and the first check number is not what it's showing here, you can type in what that check number needs to be manually, as shown there. And then you check assign check number, and it'll automatically assign the check number starting with the first check there. So we'll go ahead and print those here. And this will automatically send those to our printer for us. Okay, so now those have been printed. Now there should be check numbers assigned, and we should be good to go on that. All right, so now it automatically updated the first check number because it's now used check numbers 1016 through 1024. So the next time we come in here, the next check number is ready to go. Or if you need to reprint any checks, it'll start with the next check number for you. So with that being said, we should now be able to post. We can go ahead and post the checks, and as we see, we have our direct deposits that haven't been printed, but these do have check numbers assigned already, so we don't need to print these out. Cougar Mountain Denali Payroll will automatically assign the check numbers for the direct deposits for you. So the posting should go through okay this time without any problems once we have all of our check numbers in place. And just like the other Denali modules, with Payroll, when you post your transactions, of course you'll get your posting reports for each module that's applicable. And those reports will come up here just as soon as the payroll batch has been posted. If you've got a lot of employees, the posting process can take a little while. I believe we have 17 or 18 transactions in this batch. So this will take just a few moments to get everything posted through. All right, so that's now posted. Here is our payroll posting report, a list of all the checks that posted to the payroll module in the payroll history for this current batch. and you got your batch totals here. Okay, and then the next one we have is our Accounts Payable posting report. This is a list of all the transactions that posted to the Accounts Payable module. That would be for your payroll liabilities. So all of these posted as bills entered into the Accounts Payable module, which you can now go in and submit those tax payments or other liability payments through Accounts Payable. Okay, and our next report is our bank reconciliation report. This is a list of all the checks that posted to the bank reconciliation module. And of course, all the direct deposits are also included in there because they too will be taken out of the bank account. So they will be posted through to the bank rec. We go to the last page here to get the grand total. And this looks just like a bank reconciliation posting report as well. We have checks, deductions, that's our direct deposits, and the grand total for this bank account. And of course, our last posting report is our general ledger. This is a posting of all the debits and credits to the general ledger module for this particular payroll run here. Six pages. We've got that on details. So, and at the bottom we have our total. We have total debits and total credits. So with that, our payroll has now been posted. Now, what happens if you have posted a check and later on you need to void that check because it never got cashed, or something comes up to where that check does not apply? In Cougar Mountain Denali Payroll, there's a very simple way to void a check that's already posted. Of course, you can use the menus up here, and you select it there, or on the side menu here, it's under the payroll category, is the void check option. You would select the option there to void the check, and when you void a check in Denali Payroll, it enters it as an adjustment transaction, so now we have to create a new batch to enter the voided check. So we'll create the batch here. And then here's our void check window. We first need to bring up which employee's check are we going to void here. So we'll grab one of our employees here. Now we've got our employee selected. Now we need to know which check number do we need to void for this employee. If you double click on the field like the other features, these are the check numbers that has posted for this employee. We can go ahead and select which one we need to void. And then you've got your void description here. It automatically puts the payroll description for when this check was posted. You can change that here if needed, though. And then, of course, you have the option to void the check in the BankRec module, or if you don't want to void it in BankRec, you would uncheck that box. I don't know why you wouldn't want to. If you're voiding the check, it does need to be voided in BankRec. By checking this, this will post the void transaction through to the BankRec module as well. Then you simply save that transaction, and it allows you to add additional void checks to the current batch. Just like the other modules, you can click on the Find button to bring up a list of current transactions in this current batch. Once you've got all the checks voided in the current batch, then just like the others, you would click on the Edit Report to view the current edit report of what we're doing in this current batch, and this will bring up a list of all transactions in the current batch. In this case, it's just one voided check. Real similar to a regular check, only this is reversing the check. Transaction type is void up here, so that means that everything you see here will be an exact reversal of what this normally would be if it was a regular check. And then you've got your total here, your report total. Your tax summary, just like on the other edit report, only these taxes will be reversed because we're voiding this check. If everything looks good, then we can go ahead and post the payroll transactions. And and this is going to post the void. This will also void the check in bank rec. It will post all of your debits and credits through to general ledger. Any payroll tax liabilities that were incurred from this check will post through to payroll or to accounts payable. Our payroll transaction type void. This is our payroll posting. Accounts payable posting. This right here shows the tax liability was reversed out of accounts payable now. So it takes off that tax liability there. Of course, your bank reconciliation. This right here shows you that there was a check voided in the bank rec. Total voids right here, 1371.21. Net activity is a void, which means it will increase the bank balance, since this check was deducted from the bank balance when it previously posted. And your debits and credits for the void transaction here. Basically, this automatically reverses everything that this check did when it was entered in payroll. Very simple. You just simply select the check you want to void and you post it through and it voids it. And it undoes all the entries that were made from when the check was entered. All right, so with that, that's how you void checks. Now in Denali, we'll move on to the reports now. We're getting kind of we're getting kind of short on time here, so I'm going to just kind of do a brief overview of the reporting here, and we'll go into a little more details on our next webinar with the reporting, since we have this week and next week scheduled for Denali Payroll reports. With the reporting, you can select the report option over here on the left side in the navigation, or you can, of course, select any of the reports from the menu up here as well. These are all the different reports that are available in Denali Payroll. This same list here, you'll see, is the same list here on the navigation screen. When you select the report, it just brings up a sample of what the report looks like. If you want to actually run the report, you would double-click it here. Now, it asks for the parameters. This is an employee list report. What information do we want on this report? We want a detailed report or condensed? The employee number, that's how we're going to sort the report by. Do we want just active employees, inactive, temporary, terminated, or all employees? You can do that as well. You can tell it to just print the report with a specific range of employees, or we'll do all employees in the report. And then you click OK, and it'll let you print the report, or you can look at it on the screen, of course, just like any other reports in Cougar Mountain. This right here is just an employee list report. Since we did detailed, this basically is a printout of all of your employees with all of their detailed information. Their address, emergency contact info, pay frequency, hire date, birth date, all the information that applies to this employee here. And then you've got their tax codes and their rate codes on there as well. That's your employee list there. The next report we have is our benefit deduction report. This is a historical benefit deduction report. This report will show a list of all the benefits and deductions that have already posted up through the date range that's included in the date range that you put in the parameters here. So the date range we have is custom. You can do next fiscal quarter. You can do last fiscal quarter, last month. You can do the date range however you want to set it up here. Or you can do a custom range. And then it shows the benefits and deductions that have posted. Now, if you have benefits, if you have a current payroll batch that hasn't posted yet, that will not be included in this report. Only transactions that have posted are included in these reports here. You've got your employee leave report as well. This has all of the leave information for the employee. Employee history report. This one we're going to go into more detail next week, but this is similar to the edit report for the current batch, only this is the history report for all the posted transactions. Now this is nice. Cougar Mountain Denali Payroll allows you to reprint a pay stub if needed. This is for employees who have already, or this is for paychecks that have already posted, and your employee comes in and says, I lost my pay stub from 3 months ago. Can you reprint that for me? You can do that here, yes. That's on the pay stub there. You would just select that option there. The taxes payable report, this is handy for when you're doing your quarterly and annual tax forms. The EFTPS report, this also is handy for the federal tax forms for your federal taxes that you pay. And then the W-2 preview, this one is handy for if you needed to preview the W-2 forms before actually printing them. This just prints kind of a generic W-2 format on plain paper is what this does here. And then the final option is tax reports. This right here actually launches the Atrix application to actually run your actual tax reports, which we will go into detail next week on how to do that. This is the one you would use for running your 941s, your 940s, your W-2s, when you're actually going to send those off to the IRS and to your state tax authority as well. So with that, that will end our webinar for this week. We'll get into more detail on these reports next week of how they work and what they do, especially the Atrix. We'll talk about that next week as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll open the chat line here to answer any questions that you may have. Okay, a question from George. Why aren't zero amounts displayed as blanks instead of zero? Much more readable and saves ink. That is a good suggestion, George. I'll pass that on to our programmers to see if there's a way to fix that. Or maybe there's an option in Crystal Reports. I'll have to get a better answer for you on that. So we'll check into that and see. And then Trish has a question. How hard will it be to change the look of the check stub? In order to change the look of the check stub, you would have to have Crystal Reports installed on your computer, and then you can open that check stub format inside Crystal, and you can customize that to whatever you want it to look like. So with Crystal Reports, it's actually quite simple to do that. Susan asked a question. Can the check stub print balance or sick or vacation time remaining? Right now, the only option on there is the total leave code time, or the total leave time that employee has remaining, as we saw on the accumulated leave total down in the lower right-hand corner of the stub. Okay, a question from Mike here. How many deductions benefits can be printed on one check? Basically, I believe it's limited to 12 right now. You can set that up just like in Pro. It's limited to 12 total deductions and benefits that you can print on one check. Carol asked a question about the leave time, if it can be reported separately for vacation and sick. The current check stub format in Denali Payroll, it does not separate those out. It just does a combined leave total. However, that is editable. If you have Crystal Reports, you can edit that and separate those out using Crystal Reports. You might have to move some of the other fields around on the check stub, though, to fit those fields in there to where you have them separated out. Okay, this is an interesting one here from George, talking about there may be an issue putting the leave hours on the check. It states basically that some of the labor boards have an issue with that, showing that the employee has earned that time. If that is an issue, you can actually take that off of the check stub. Printing the leave hours on the check stub is optional. In order to take that off, you would just open that check format in Crystal Reports and delete that field from the check stub, and then it won't print the leave time on the check stub. Another question from George asking if there's an updated list of features that were included in Pro that have not been included in Denali yet. George, I haven't seen that list personally. If there is an updated list, it would probably be available through your sales rep. You can give them a call or email them, and they should have that answer for you. And then, of course, yeah, there's a list of some of the features, which you did point out, George. Yes, these are some of the features here that are not yet available in the Denali Payroll, but we are coming out with another release soon. They have expedited getting the next release out because some of these features are important for sure, like your daily units, the tax update utility. I'm still not sure on the tax update utility if they're going to have a separate utility for that or if it's just going to be a Denali update that includes the updated tax codes. Things like that. For sure, your year-end processing, that's coming up in a future release as well. That currently is not available in the current release, but it will be available before the end of this year for sure, so that you'll be able to process your year end and close out the year if needed. Okay, question from Jay. Will the void check option be available in Accounts Payable? That option should be available in Accounts Payable already. You just enter it in as an Accounts Payable adjustment, and then you select to void the check. That would be an option there to do in Accounts Payable. It's not as easy in Payroll, though. That is true. With Payroll, there's actually a void check option that's separate. So I don't know. I haven't heard if they're going to do that in Accounts Payable or not. Another question from Mike. Can you select a different day to void the check than the original issue date? Right now, as it's released, no, that is not an option. That may be an option in a future release. I'll have to double check on that and see. But right now, it just voids it. The void date is the same day as the original check date. Okay, Roger asked, what does the employee history look like with the void? Basically, it'll just list the void as a separate transaction in the employee history report. It'll show that with all the other transactions, but it'll just list it out as a separate transaction. And of course, your totals will have the void reversed out of the totals. So your totals on that report will have the voided transaction accounted for in those totals. Okay, Pam is asking, what will the voided check do to the history report on that individual? Yeah, again, that when you void a check, it deducts those totals out because those totals were included in that check before. When you void a check in Denali Payroll, it deducts those totals out and updates the year-to-date totals to not include those totals any longer because that check has now been voided. The check will still be listed in the history because it'll show the voided transaction, and the reason it'll be listed is because it also shows the original transaction that got voided to begin with. So you have the original, and then you have the void that reverses the original. That's how that's going to look on the history report, and then your grand totals will not include that check because it's been voided out of there. Okay, Roger's asking about a report to print labels. The closest report I have on that for you, Roger, it's not really a labels report. It's just the employee list. It's basically just running the employee list that we looked at there. There's not really a way to just do like addresses if that's what you're looking for yet in Denali Payroll. But that is a good suggestion there if you're going to be printing out labels to stick on envelopes for W-2 forms or whatever. That would be a good idea. So I can put that in as a suggestion for you there as well. Okay, Ben's asking a question about the benefit deduction reports if it shows the totals for each benefit and deduction at the end of the report or just total benefits deductions. It actually gives you either option on that, Ben, and we'll go over that next week when I go into more detail on those reports. On the benefit deduction, you have the option of doing subtotals by code, or if you want to just do the grand total on the report to not include the subtotals. You can do either or on that. Trish is asking a question about Atrix. I honestly don't know on that, Trish, if they're going to fix their problems with reporting quarterly state reports. As far as I know, I haven't heard. I know they are working on some fixes, and they always come out with updates that are supposed to include certain fixes. Maybe we can get a better answer for that to post on the website. I'll double check and see on that for you. All right, Donald, good point there. We all need to lobby to put the voided date on the voided check to be able to change that. All right, I will do that. A good way to do that, Donald, if you have a suggestion that you want to make on Denali Payroll or any of the Cougar Mountain software applications, you can go to the Cougar Mountain website. That's cougarmtn.com, and there's a little feedback button that'll pop up. Click on the feedback and submit your feedback there, because that will be the quickest way to get your suggestions into us. And we do appreciate your feedback. Any suggestions you have on our software, please go ahead and put in your feedback and submit it there on the website, and we will definitely address it. Okay, Pam is asking one more question about voiding checks. If it reverses the hours out of the history report, she's saying in Pro it does not. It adds the hours. If it's adding the hours in Pro, it shouldn't be doing that. When you void a check, it should be taking those hours back out. In Denali, it definitely does. Denali Payroll takes those hours out. It basically undoes everything that posted through when that check posted. when you void that check, it does a complete opposite of what that check did when it posted. It just undoes it all. It voids it. So it also takes out the hours. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. That concludes this session here of the Denali Payroll for today, for April 3rd. Be sure to come back and check with us next week. We've got one payroll module to go. I went past there. We got one more payroll webinar to go to wrap all this up here for Denali Payroll. We are going to have one more presentation about inventory, because there's a new feature in this release of Denali that allows lot numbers in inventory. I don't know if I have time to fit that in on next week's webinar. If not, we'll actually have a special webinar the following week for that. And we'll go over the lot number feature that's available in the inventory module as well that came out with this release. So be sure to check back next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific Time for the next payroll webinar. And we'll finish up the reports on that and how that works, how all the specific historical reports work. We'll also go over the Atrix as well, how Atrix works with Denali Payroll. If you have any questions or comments, be sure to give us a call, or you can send your email. Also, again, go to our website, www.cougarmtn.com. That's Cougar Mountain with mountain abbreviated, MTN, cougarmtn.com, and click on the feedback link. Put in your suggestions there. That would be the quickest way to get your suggestions to us. And with that, I want to thank you for joining us here today. Keep an eye out for follow-up communications and for access to recording. Thank you all, and have a great day.